Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Monroe, Washington.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at wheeltalkpodcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Hi guys. I think my window's open, but I think I'm just going to leave it. You might hear some crazy 7-Eleven sounds, but that's okay. Hello. I'm going to do a podcast solo. We needed a few extra podcasts, and then I was like, we're kind of scheduling has kind of been weird, and so I thought I'd come on here. And you know, a lot of people reached out to me when I did a depression podcast, like a podcast about like depression and how we all have it and we're all fine. And I just want to say thank you for everybody that reached out. That was really awesome. I guess this is like a sequel to that, or a post-sequel? A sequel. Yeah. Anyway, how are you doing? Are you still depressed? Or are you just managing it better? Seriously, though, COVID has been kind of crazy for me, and I imagine for a lot of people, I went through a bunch of like the ups and downs of COVID, and it's just wow. Like so at the beginning of COVID, I did like a food thing where I cut out pretty much all the food ever, all the food. And just to see what I was intolerant to, which turns out I'm intolerant to everything. So now I just eat anything because it's not going to change. Anyway, moving on. I felt so good, and I was not like, I did not feel depressed. I was like feeling good to go. Feeling great, and then I started eating normal again, and I was like, well, fuck, it's back. And I know that I should probably start eating nothing again, but I really don't want to, so here I am. And, but something that I'm learning during this lovely COVID time is that, I guess I learned it a little bit before, but it really kind of like solidified during COVID, was that, you know, when I started doing pottery, 6, 7, however many years ago, in 2014, that's 6. I mean, I started doing it in college, but when I started doing it like full time in 2014, 2015, I had an idea of what I wanted to do. Even before I started doing it like full time, I had this like 3-year plan, and then something happened within my job, and I was like, okay, well, I guess that plan is going to be smushed up a little bit, and it's gonna accelerate it. It's accelerated. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna become a potter full time. I wasn't ready, but I did it anyway. I'm not sure that I regret that I did it, but I definitely wasn't ready. But I don't think we're ready. I don't think we're ever ready for something like that. And, you know, so I did it. I bought a house, and then I worked in the basement of that house for such a long time, and I was doing more and more things. I was like, oh, this would be a great idea to do like a paint and sip and go to people's houses. And I was still living in my house. I did not have the studio at the time. And I started doing that because I needed a little bit more money, and I thought it would be a great idea. I hate paint and sips. I literally despise them. And I did before I started doing them. I don't like painting. I don't. And I was like, oh, it'll be good. I need money. And I started doing this, trying to convince myself that I liked doing it. And to be clear, it was fun. Like, the people were fun, but I was so anxious. I felt like I was going to, like, let these people down. I didn't have the glazing, like, techniques, like, figured out. You know, it would have been a lot better if I had done a little bit more research. And if Tacoma had gotten to 3.0 of their clear glaze. But, you know, you live and learn. But, you know, I think that, I want to say that that's probably the beginning of when I started doing things for the, like, making decisions for, well, no, it probably was, it's probably the very beginning of when I started doing pottery, was when I started making decisions for the wrong reasons. And I feel like it's almost like a disease, making decisions for the wrong reasons. We never talk about this either. Like, nobody ever talks about the fact that, like, well, here's the thing, right? So our lives are determined by the decisions that we make. And I am so grateful for the life that I have built myself, and I am grateful for what I've been able to accomplish, the friends I have, the relationships I have, like, the experiences that I've been afforded. And I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, I look at the decisions that I have made and why I've made those decisions, and I don't know. I just, like, was it worth it? You know, like, is my lack of mental health situation, is it worth what I have decided? You know, like, obviously the outcome has been fine, but has the process been fine? Like, has the process been less than desirable? Has it been miserable? Has it been great, but also miserable at the same time? Like, you know, all these things that we think about. And I think that when I started doing pottery, when I started and was like, I'm going to do this full time, it was because I was desperate. And I was like, I can do this. I will do this. I'm going to do this. And I was determined. And then, you know, I started doing, like, more and more and more. And for a time there, it was good. Like, my intentions at the very beginning were, I'm going to be a potter. I'm going to throw pots. I'm going to be simple. Like, it's going to be simple. It's going to be straightforward. And then there's this growth that happens. And everybody that's grown to a certain degree understands what this is. Like, it's like, okay, do I take the leap and go this way towards a potential employees, towards a bigger space, towards more product, towards more income, but also towards more expenses? Or do I take this route and kind of, like, keep where I'm at? Like, stay where I'm at, stay content with what I'm doing, find a medium that makes sense to me, you know, find something that is, I don't know, like, something that is comfortable, you know? And I think that 9 out of 10 times everybody chooses the route that is moving up, climbing up the ladder, as you will. And I think that is awesome for most people. I think that for me, it was not the right decision. And 6 years later, I see that. Not that like I said, I am very happy with what has happened and what I've learned and all the experiences that I have gained. However, through these years, oh, here comes the train. Anyway, enjoy that. Through these years, I have gone through some of the lowest lows that I have ever been in. And it has been rough. And a lot of it has been... Oh, here it is. I don't know if you guys can hear the train. If you can't, you're deaf. I remember, side note, I remember I worked at Sherwin-Williams, and it's literally right next to the train. Like, we're pretty close. We're like a block away from the train, but Sherwin-Williams is like, you could throw a rock and it would hit the train. And every time somebody would call, we'd have to be like, oh, can you hold on? There's the train. And it would go by and be like, Wah! And then we'd have to wait for 30 seconds and we'd be like, all right, continue. Anyway, that's, if you live in a train town, you know. So, anyway, moving on. I have had some of the lowest lows in the past 6 years that I didn't even know were possible. And a lot of that is because I have put money and or success before myself and before my contentment and my well-being. And nobody ever, I don't know, I just feel like I never hear anybody talk about this, and I don't want to like talk anybody out of starting a business, starting doing pottery, doing something like that. However, I do feel like there's a lot of this a lot that goes on that nobody is prepared for, that nobody hears, because everybody is like, oh my god, pottery is so fantastic and I love doing this and it's so great being passionate about what you do, and I live, eat, breathe, hopefully not dust, but pottery, and I my significant other supports me. And, we hear a lot about that. I feel like we don't hear a lot about the parts that are, oh my gosh, I started teaching and I wasn't ready. And I started selling and I wasn't ready. And I started doing this and I wasn't ready. And because a lot of the times, those people, I feel like maybe they've reached a point of happiness and they're content now, and maybe they forget that, or maybe they're just not. I'm totally eating a fruit roll up, and I apologize. Maybe they're just not willing to share that, and I get that. I totally understand. It's really hard for me to tell people that. Well, I guess it's not hard anymore, but I mean, like, it's really hard for people to tell people that, hey, this like isn't, especially when somebody comes up to you at a show and says, oh my god, it must be so amazing doing what you love. And you just look at them and you're like, yeah, it's great. It's great. I fucking love going home, working until midnight, loading my kiln up and getting this out, getting a whole load of 50 plus mugs and items out of my shop or out of my kiln every single week and working 90 hours a week. Like, we bust our asses. And sometimes it's okay to admit that you don't really love what you're doing right now. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not complaining. I'm just giving straight, like, I'm just talking straight. Like, I know that some people that are, like, some magical people who love what they do, and, like, they have so much joy in their heart for pottery, and like, nothing can penetrate the like, joy that they have. And I envy that. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great that their passion is their job. I, however, have not had that experience. And so, however, I do like pottery. I do enjoy doing it. I even started, like, when I started doing pottery, I wanted to be a potter. I love throwing the same thing over and over and over again. I love being a production style potter. I don't get bored. A lot of people would. I don't. If I could stay up for 20 hours and throw pots, I probably would. It's just something that I enjoy doing. I can turn off my brain. I can listen to a podcast. I can listen to a book. It doesn't take any effort for me. It's just go. I love doing that. But what's been hard for me is when I opened up myself to other avenues of revenue and things, and I started having customers and having members and having students. All the things that I love individually, but all packed together is a bit overwhelming for me, especially because I'm an introvert. And it's been tough. It's been really, really tough. And, like I said, I love them all individually, but I cannot tell you the stress that I have before a class. Like, I just had 2 classes today, and I stressed out about them beforehand. I even knew the people that were coming. And you know what? During the class, it was totally fine. I was fine. But, like, the amount of pressure that it puts on you during that day, it's tough. And, like, I'm exhausted. I don't even know how I'm talking to you guys. It's like 11:50 right now. And I'm physically awake. I'm emotionally kind of like, meh. I've also gone through some weird shit this week, so that's adding to that. But yeah, I was not expecting to be so if you'd asked me 6 years ago what my future held, it did not involve a storefront talking to people every single day. And for very good reasons, because that's something that is hard for me. I'm great at customer service. Like, I'm good at being nice to people and stuff like that and helping people. I might be a little bit too much of a people pleaser, and it emotionally drains me. And so I've been learning, I don't know what the fuck I've been talking about. Anyway, I've been learning over COVID that what I have been doing over the past 6 years, compounding interest, basically. It's been compounding. It's just been growing and growing and growing. I decided to do the paint a pot parties. And then I decided to buy a storefront that was 3,000 square feet, or not buy, but start renting and move my entire studio because I needed space. But with that space came the responsibility of having a retail space and more rent, And then with that rent came the idea of, I want to do paint your own pottery in the front, but I want to make stuff that's only my pieces. Handmade, American, it'll be great. And then from that, I was like, I need to do classes to supplement income. I need to have this many students. I have to jump in right away because I have to make the rent. So I start off with 18 students, 20 students. And then I teach them badly because I wasn't prepared. And then the students drop down. And then I go through a few things and I work the student situation out. I get that in order. And then I decide, I don't have enough time to throw all these pots for paint your own pottery. Maybe I should just do one small order from this company that gets bisqueware from China. That'll be good. So, I put $500 order in. And then, I get that. We were so excited. I remember Andrew and me were like unwrapping it while he was unwrapping it like it was Christmas. I spend the next 6 months feeling slightly like I betrayed my like business plan. And then I finally give in full blast. Kids are coming in. I don't like children, not all that much. I mean, they're fine, I guess. Mostly I don't like parents. But you know, now I am in the front, working with kids, working with parents, helping people do paint your own pottery. I love the outcome. It's a lot for my mental being, okay? Like my mental state. It became a lot. You know, after work I'd get off and I didn't want to talk to anybody, but guess what? I had to, because I had to go to class and I had to teach class. And then we have members that come in all the time, and you know, it just gained and gained and gained and gained and gained, and then all of a sudden I don't have any time to do pottery for myself. I don't have any time to do pottery for my clients, my wholesale clients, my shows in Leavenworth. Last year, I was so behind because of the store from Leavenworth. I think I took off the last 2 months because I just couldn't do it. And this year, I didn't even do Leavenworth because I just couldn't do it. And most, if not all of my wholesale orders are like small or late. It's just been a super struggle for me. And once COVID hit, I apologize. I don't mean to like, I keep apologizing, but like I said, I wasn't intending to tell you my entire backstory, but I felt like that was needed because once COVID hit, my shop closed. No classes, no painters, no nothing. And do you know what happened? That was the first time in forever that I felt good. I felt fine. My body wasn't aching. My mind was clear. I had time to do stuff. I had time to like paint mugs for myself. I had time to watch a television show all the way through. I watched the entire 11 seasons of MASH during COVID. It was the first time in 6 years that I have taken a break, like an actual break. And I barely threw anything. I barely even touched a pottery wheel in a month. And it just showed me that all of these decisions that I have made, whether it be because of money or what I felt needed to happen within the business, all of these decisions were decisions that I made, but not because of what I needed. I made them because of what society has set as a standard and because of what I felt needed to be done due to money issues. And I remember a long time ago when I was learning pottery and like, and my teacher, he said that, well, we always say here, you know, when you need money, find money, and that's true. But he has said, you know, it's all fun and games until you have to provide food and diapers and, you know, provide for your family. I don't have a family, but it is true. You kind of like, when you have things to provide for or supply, anything's game. You know, any money is fine. And there was never any contentment. And over the past couple years, probably like maybe 1.5 to 2, I've been kind of feeling this urge to not grow. If that makes any sense. All of the people around me have been growing, and it's been great for them, and they've been thriving. And I have been growing as well, and I have not been thriving mentally, physically. And everything is on plan. It's on the right track to be a successful business, and except for me, my mental being is not on the right track. And, yeah, so that has been really hard because I don't see a lot of people talking about being content anymore. It's always talking about moving to the next level, doing the next thing, making enough money. And even me, I'm always like trying to like strive to do the best and telling people to, sell it for more, sell more, go to different shows, do all the shows. Even me, I'm telling people, and that's because our society is so geared towards that. And it's just become so apparent to me in the last year that that's not something that I strive for. I've always kept my mugs at a very reasonable price. And I think that and everybody's always nagged me for that. And, they have always kind of been like, Becca, you need to raise your prices. And before I had the studio, I was doing fine. I was making enough to support myself and to live. And I felt like I was doing pretty okay, actually. And, it's always that you need to do things that are worth your time. And I understand that. I do. And I even tell people that like, you're not doing it like I've told many of people they're not pricing things high enough. Mostly because they put a hell of a lot more work in their stuff than I do. I'm kind of a lazy potter. But I think that the reason that I haven't really upped my prices and gone full-blown $100 mug club is because I think deep down I've always known that I just didn't want to grow all that much. I've always done things. I've always self-sabotaged. And I should have seen that sooner. But I think that it's time to stop. For me, at least, it's time to stop growing. And it feels so weird to say that. I don't want to grow. I don't think that means personally. I think that means financially, essentially. I'm fine with growing my investments and all those things. But I'd like to find a space in which I'm comfy with financially, hit that, and keep it. I have no real ambitions to become a millionaire. I have no desire to make more than $60,000 in a year. Last year I lived on 12. I'm probably a little bit more, but I feel comfy where I'm at and where I think I will be. And so things are going to change. I want to be content in my life, and there seems to be, in my experience, a lack of people spreading the idea of being content and happy. And I want to start doing that because it's just so important to be happy with what you're doing because you set certain goals and certain expectations for yourself. And not because you're even if it's your best friend or, a coworker or somebody like that wants you to do something. Oh, this would be so cool if you did this. If it's not in your wheelhouse, if it's something that you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. But they're like, it'll be great. You should do it. It'll be great. And something inside of you is like, I should not do that. I think that it's about time that we all, including myself, especially myself, stood up and said, no, I'm happy with where I'm at right now. Or where I was 4 steps ago. And I'm going back there. I am turning in my colors, and I'm saying, this is what I want to do. And I think social media does not help with us in this, like, at all. We always see somebody who's doing the next best thing, and we always want to kind of keeping up with the Joneses is at an all-time high. And that's really hard to differentiate, and it's funny because me and Ryan just realized that we got a review on an alternate podcast program thing, and it was saying that during one of the episodes we were talking we were complaining about other people's Instagram, and we weren't. What we were saying at that instance is that, sometimes it is healthy to unfollow somebody, even if you love their work, even if it's the most amazing work in the whole entire world. It can be very healthy to unfollow those individuals, because every time you see that, you feel like you're not good enough. You look at their pictures or you see their products and you're like, I could never do that. And so, you know what? A lot of the times you couldn't ever do that. And the reality is that that's okay. That is totally okay that you can't do something. And it's important to know that you have to create your own path, and other people can't create that for you, but other people can't hinder that either. What I'm doing on my social media versus what Ryan's doing on his social media versus what somebody else is doing on their social media, that's their path. And it's not meant to challenge you or challenge anybody else. And even though sometimes it does feel that way, like I have a few accounts that I don't follow anymore, even though I respect the hell out of the maker, just because I can't. It's not healthy for me. I look at them and I'm just like, I can't follow you. I love your stuff, but I can't, because it creates feelings in me that's not healthy, and like mostly jealousy. But yeah, I feel like this was kind of rambly. I'm gonna continue to ramble, but I hope it didn't come across. This hasn't come across as complaining, because it's definitely not. I just God, contentment, being happy. I'm getting there, but it's been tough. It's been tough. There's a lot of big changes in my life that haven't been outwardly spoken over the interwebs or this podcast. Soon enough, you guys will find out soon enough. But there's a lot of things in my future that I'm really excited about. I'm kind of going back to basics. I'm really stoked about it. And you know what? I feel like I've learned enough that I know when to say when, I think that's the next step, right? Is find out what you're happy with, find out where you're content, what you're doing, how you're operating your life, what your goals are, and know when to say when to say yes, when to say no, when to say maybe. That's really hard. you know? Also, I think that having a goal and an ideal future is really important too. You know, when you start a business, especially a storefront, you're asked to do a business plan. And I've done business plans for many years now. Not good ones. Don't mind you, not good ones at all. Like my business plan for this year was to make $120,000, which that did not happen. Nor was that needed. Also, nor was it needed. But anyway, and we're actually going to talk to one of my friends about business plans. So keep that in mind as we kind of like continue on this year. But it's really important to make a goal for yourself, like a realistic goal, or to identify what you love to do. So like for me, if I was to say, what does my next 6 years want to look like? Well, 1, I'd like to be happy. I don't really want to dwell in depression or anxiety. 2, I'd like to throw pots. That's it. I just want to throw pots. 3, I'd like to have some sort of a hobby that is outside of pottery, like an actual hobby. And 4, I'd like to eat dinner at a table at the same time, or lunch. I'll go for either dinner or lunch. I want to be consistent with one of my meals. So those are my goals, right, for the near future. And I would suggest to write them down, because writing them down solidifies them and like secures them in your mind. But like look back at those goals. Like write them down, and every 6 months pull them out and say, have I done this? Have I made the appropriate decisions to make these things happen? Have I said no the appropriate amount of times to make sure that these things stay the way that they are? And it's just like a business plan, you know? It's just like a business plan, but it's kind of like a life plan. And I am, of course, not a therapist or anything like that, but it just makes sense. It's definitely not something that I have researched by any means, but it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to like write down your life goals, even your work goals. You know, if you're doing part-time pottery and you love pottery and eventually you want to quit your job, write down 5 years from now where you want to be. And even if it's in 5 years, write down yearly goals too to get there. Because like, I think that had I done that in the beginning and really kind of like stuck to it, I think that I would have been a little bit happier in the long run. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't take things that are given to you. Like, here I am going to go and contradict myself. I hope not. But you know, there are certain times where things arise and they're like, oh, this is a sign and I should do this. It still should align with your goals. If it's a little early, then, you know, take that as a sign. It's fine. But that's what I would say, at least. But definitely, you know, but definitely like stick to your guns. Stick to your guns. Because it's just gonna, I can't see why it wouldn't make you feel any, like, wait. Just stick to your guns. Because, like, the goal in life shouldn't be about money. Or, you know, it should be about happiness. It should be about, like, the way that you view your life and the way that you are going through your life. It should be about your relationships with people and how beautiful that is, and like how wonderful the people are that are around us, and how they uplift us, and how they support us, and how you support them, and how just like, if you aren't smiling when you're going to sleep or when you're waking up, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why. And if it is something that is like depression and you need medication, then there's that. But if it's something that you could do something about, or if it's something that is because of a decision that was made that maybe you weren't very comfortable with at the time, but you did it anyway, there's no one stopping you from changing. You know, it is just money. A lot of the things that we do is because of money. A lot of things that we don't do is because of money. And I know that's really hard to say, especially if you have a family. But I will say this. When you start doing what you were supposed to be doing, it doesn't matter. You will figure out how to make it work. Because that's what you are supposed to be doing, and the people and the places and the things around you will align accordingly. Hopefully. It's funny, I have a tattoo on my wrist. I have a lot of tattoos, but the very first tattoo that I ever got it's a mirror. It says mirror, and it's mirrored. And it also looks like an Egyptian man with wide legs if you turn it over to the side. But also, if you look at it in a mirror and I hold my wrist up, it is reflected correctly. Anyway, the reason I got this tattoo is because in college, one of my professors said, life is like a mirror. The way that you look into it is going to look back at you that way. That's not to say that it always is going to... You're not always going to be rich or something like that. But if you look at your life and you look at the life ahead of you and you approach it with grace and being humble and hard work and you have a goal, usually life is going to report back and it will be reciprocal to that. So... not always, obviously, but most of the time. And a lot of my business I don't even know how I'm still successful financially, but I've been very lucky, and I have a lot of people to thank in my life, and that mirror, I try to treat people nice and I try to do things, but I also have a good outlook on life. I try to be optimistic in life as much as I can, and this tattoo has not proven me wrong yet. Hopefully not. But I have another tattoo that says, let who you are and what you believe shine through you in everything. It's also really important not to be fake. And to be real with yourself and with others. And people will see that. You know who see that the most is kids. God bless them. They'll see right through you if you're being an asshole. But I think it's a hard lesson to learn to really stick to your guns and really follow what you believe and follow what you set out for yourself. And nobody, I think, succeeds immediately or right off the bat. But we can all try, right? So, anyway, yeah. This is me. This is my long 45-minute talk about how contentment is necessary. How nobody talks about it, but sometimes your life isn't all that great. And looking back to when it was or to what your goals were, you can always find the starting point again. Just remember that. Don't throw pots you hate throwing. Don't do stuff that you fucking hate. Just don't do it. Just don't fucking do it. That's not to say that, you also have to decide if you are, okay, so I have a friend who's married, and she is one of those people that has a really shitty job, but she loves her life outside of work. And it's really important for her to have a really good life outside of work. So she just works, and it's fine. She gets through it, and then at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or whenever, she goes out and she does all the things that she wants to do, and she really likes her life. She's content with her job enough, that the outside of her life is great. And she works to live her life, essentially. And then her husband, on the flip side, has to have a really good job because he works so much. He's a workaholic. He works so much that he could care less about coming home and going to the gym and doing all the things like she does. They have a completely opposite outlook on life, right? So find out who you are, right? Me, I am one of those people that is I can be content in my job enough, but really I want my life to be great. I think we all have heard me say that pottery is not my passion. It is something I enjoy, but it is not my passion. And I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. But I need to make sure that the rest of my life is good. It is quality, But some people, they have to have their job be that passion, be that good part of their life. And that's okay. That is okay too. Sometimes when that happens, you have to sacrifice a little bit outside of work. But find out who you are, which one are you, and make that work towards you. Because if you have to have a great job, but your job is shitty, then maybe there needs to be a little change there. If you have to have I just realized that my window's open and it's midnight. If you have to have a good after work life, and you can have just a regular desk job, but you're in it on pottery, it's your hobby and it's everything, don't fucking make pottery your job. If you can see yourself in the future, doing all of the business stuff that requires making pottery a job, and it terrifies you, don't make it your job. Keep that hobby something that is magical to you. Having something be magical and a hobby and not making money is totally okay. It's 150% okay. Just because you make pots doesn't mean you have to sell pots. And I think that I took a totally left turn there, but moving on. But yeah, that just needed to be said regardless. But figure out what you need, what your goal is, what will make you happy. Figure that out. And then go for it. But write it down. Write it down. All right. That's it. Bye. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and we're having so much fun. If you want to follow us individually on Instagram, you totally can. Ryan's Instagram handle is at RD Ceramics, and mine is 5 Lines Pottery. That's the number 5. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to write us a review on our podcast. We read every single one of them, and we totally appreciate them. They help us out an awful lot, and they also put smiles on our faces. I hope you guys continue to listen, and we love you. Thanks. Bye.